This is the new counterclockwise Hayabusa supercharger kit laid out before it's packed and gets shipped off to my discerning customer. As you can see, the intercooler's there, the oil cooler for the supercharger, Rotrex oil, Cane and air filter, all the connecting hoses, all the bolts and nuts. Clutch cable goes around the outside and underneath the supercharger. Fuel line, to get the fuel line running right with the intercooler and supercharger in the way, we give you a new fuel line. Breather for the engine, complete with filter. Supercharged oil tank, complete with temperature gauge. Belt guard, dry spigot. Dry spigot goes through the new alternator case, comes in from the back, comes through the seals. The seals hold it in place. Make sure when you assemble that these mating faces are clinically clean. We don't want oil on the faces because that'll only induce slip. CNC'd hard anodized black pulley. That's the drive pulley. Crank bolt. So you take the original crank bolt out and the hardened steel washer that's on the outside of the alternator. Stick the hardened steel washer back onto this bolt, and then when you torque it up to 100 foot-pound, and she won't be coming apart. Super duper Gates belt. This is a belts Power Grip GTX is one of the stronger belts that Gates do. We have to give it as much longevity as we can, and this one seems to survive really, really well. We've not had any issues with this belt at all. Very good. This is a breather box that replaces the factory one. You put your reed valve on the top, the black piece that sits on top sits in there, just the same as it does on the other one, but this distance here gives space for the oil, the air filter, so that sits nicely with the air filter going over the top of it. Alternator case, so we've got the seals in there. We put two seals in, one behind the other. This is not really to keep the oil out or any problem with the oil. This makes life so much easier when you're putting that dry spigot in. It holds it nice and firm. For the cost of an oil seal, it's well worth it. So you put your ignition pickup in, your alternator windings. We give you all the new bolts for all the parts that we supply. And then we've got the supercharger drive bracket. So you'll see this part here. We slide a bolt in there with a nut, and this sits there, so you can see the bolt pushes up against this boss, so that when you get your belt tension, you wind the bolt through so it touches on this and lock it up. That stops there being any chance of this sliding forward or backwards. It's never been an issue, but we're all for safety, so for the little bit of extra work, it was worth putting in. New fuel pump. So for the Gen 2, the early Gen 2s, up to I think about 2012 this fits. The later Gen 2s, the best solution is to put the early Gen 2 fuel pump housing in. But if you can't do that, then you need an external fuel pump and regulator to go with the kit. Clutch slave cylinder, stroke crank, engine pulley, engine sprocket. So we've built in the clutch slave cylinder into the bracket itself. It's not a separate piece. So there's your bleed, there's your feed, and there's your new hose to go with it. Stainless steel piston we supply. You put your own seal off your original slave cylinder onto that and install it into the case. Pretty straightforward. Silicone hoses to hold the intercooler to the throttle bodies with some nice narrow stainless clamps. Straps to hold the intercooler, stop any blow off. There's those two parts there. Link pipe. You see the link pipe that comes up from the supercharger around the side of the throttle bodies and into the intercooler, into this pipe here. Blow off valve. So I've got a blow off valve so that anytime you're on cruise or idling and you don't want the boost that the supercharger is making, then it blows off the blow off valve, just dissipates the air that's not wanted. We've got some pretty good maps now for Woolwich Racing. So it's all coming together and we're shipping over the next few weeks. Thank you very much for all those who pre-ordered. We're now starting to put them in boxes and get them out the door. If you owe us any money, give us a shout and pay and we'll ship the kit to you. Thank you very much.